Since Wings of Liberty, these two pro gamers have played against each other 33 times. Now, our Zerg player had one win back in 2019, but has since been on a 26 series losing streak. It almost feels a little cruel to have them play against each other yet again, but you know what? They met at the offline event of the RSL in a best-of-5 series, and the last few times that they played against one another, aka in the third season of the RSL just about a month or so ago, both of those series were phenomenal. So spotting right here in the top right-hand corner, playing with the red SCVs, we have Maru. Down in the bottom right, or bottom left rather, playing with the blue Zorg drones. We're looking in the main of SHIN. Ooh, really SHIN? Okay. We are starting off with a little bit of spice. I do kind of feel for SHIN though, because honestly, the last few times that we've seen him play in Terran versus Zerg, right? So from his perspective, Zerg versus Terran, he's been destroying Terrans left, right, and center. That series, for example, that he recently played against Cure, actually during the same tournament, that one comes to mind. I don't really want to spoil it all too much in case you haven't seen it, but my god, did SHIN look good at the game. But then as soon as he faces off against Maru, it almost seems like a mental block, even though both of them are top-tier contenders. Maru's gonna find out about this right now. Even though both of them are ridiculously good at the game, Maru just seems to have the upper hand every single time. But surely, nobody manages to beat, well, SHIN 27 times in a row, right? Surely today is the day? Well, I guess stay tuned to find out. It's going to be a hatchery as well on the low ground for SHIN at home. It's a good old hatch gas pool, but we are starting off with a cheeky bit of aggression. What you really want here as a Terran is exactly, a factory with like a tech lab on it, some cyclone production and all the rest of it. It's gonna be difficult to pull that off because it takes a while. How much value, though, is SHIN really trying to gain from this? Is he just gonna try and creep this area up? Okay, he is gonna make some links. We do not have a Roach Warren on the back of this, but of course Maru doesn't know. He's gonna try and scout that sort of information out at this point in time, because he really needs to figure out whether or not there is follow-up aggression. The Queens actually are only just now started here on this side of the map, because the prioritization has been on the proxy hatch. I like this though for SHIN, right? Just immediately trying to grab a small little advantage here in the earlier stages of the game, and he's trying to dictate the pace. The Queen is indeed out. We are gonna put some creep tumors in that little alleyway. Starport coming up too. And whatever Maru had intended for the very beginning of this game, it needs to be thrown out of the window, because only just now is when a second command center will begin. As a matter of fact, SHIN is actually mining here. It seems a little bit ambitious, shall we say, to be mining over here for an extended period of time, to say the least. But I guess you can start spreading creep backwards. Maybe try to meet creep in the middle of the map. A bunch of Zerglings are now coming, actually. The creep is spreading, but so is an inject popping off here in just about well, maybe 10 seconds time. We already have a lot of links coming across the map. I like it, though, that Maru has decided to not take the low ground here. Yeah, it's very obvious to just build the command center in that location. It's usually what Terran players like to do, even when they're under this much pressure. But in this particular instance, I don't think it really matters. Now, what we have on the back of this for Maru is a fusion core. Why in the world would there be a fusion core? I actually thought that that was going to be an armory. Is he looking to try and go for a Battlecruiser follow-up? It's really the only thing that makes sense. Are we effectively playing one base Battlecruiser to try and deal with a proxy hatchery cheese from the opponent? I guess you can also get it for, like, Liberator ranged. Considering there's a secondary tech lab, though, and it's added onto the starport, I think this has to be a Battlecruiser follow-up. Okay. A very spicy way to start off the best of 5. Now, of course, this hatchery is going to die. SHIN really didn't put a lot of effort into trying to keep this going. I think he was hoping that his opponent was going to overextend, but there it is. Have I accidentally loaded up a viewer-submitted replay of StarCraft 2? Just one that is played at the absolute tippity top of Grandmaster League. proxy hatchery with minimal commitment into a battlecruiser counterattack? Now, what SHIN has been doing for a while already is make a lot of drones at home. So this natural here, this low ground, has been up for a while. Plus, he did run around in the main base, and I would imagine he did click on it. If he didn't, he may make the assumption that it is quick armory, but of course, he's one of the very best Zerg players in the world, so he should have clicked on it, and he should have known that this was indeed a fusion core, and therefore battlecruisers are likely to be expected. We have a Spore Crawler in the natural, a Spore Crawler in the main base too. Spire, 2-base Spire on the back of this. You know what? Apparently the depot was down and a bunch of Zerglings do slip in. This is a very significant mistake from Maru, and one that I didn't even really look for, because I assumed this was never going to happen. Margin for error, though, is extremely small. In the meantime, the Battlecruiser is out, but it's teleporting straight onto 4 Queens and a Spore Crawler. SHIN is getting all the damage done in the world, and then some. GG. Next up, we find ourselves on the map Botanical. Remember in the previous RSL season, when Maru and SHIN played that banger of a game on this particular map? It is, yeah, one of the very best games that was played in 2025. Honestly, a beauty of a match. I'm sure SHIN doesn't agree. It's one of the biggest throws as well that I have seen at the highest level of StarCraft 2 over the last couple of months. Sadly for SHIN, of course, but luckily for Maru. Now, Maru in that particular instance, he played a very mech-heavy style. So he ended up going for a bio-esque looking early game, but then he followed it up with Terran mech. And it was something that is just pretty much unheard of. We don't really see a ton of that, at least in modern StarCraft. There was a period in time where we saw Terrans going Marine, Marauder, Medevac early on with maybe Widow Mines or Siege Tanks for support, and then they would transition towards Ghosts, and then eventually they would swap out the Lost Marines and Marauders with more mechanical units. So you end up with an army composition that we call Ghost Mech. And that was, for a long time, considered to be the ultimate unit composition for Terran. But these days it's pretty uncommon. We don't really see straight Terran mech very much anymore. I mean, again, on the previous patch, it used to be reasonably common because of the Cyclone bug, but they have since fixed the Cyclone bug. I honestly don't really know. Is it a viable style? Is it actually good? Or if it's really just powerful because not a lot of people play against it, and not a lot of Zerg players in this instance have a lot of experience playing against the newer version of it. It's one of the things that you have to figure out over time, and one of the things that we'll just have to wait and see. I'm sure, though, that if it was considered to be very powerful, we would see Terran players play it more frequently than what we have right now. Anyways, Maru seemed to make it work just fine in the few instances that I have seen him play it. And he is considered to be, well, probably the best Terran in the world. Maybe it's Clem, it's really hard to say. The skill level at the highest level, at least for Terrans, is extremely close. This is bad, though, for Maru. Not just losing the first map, but now also losing the very first unit that he gets out. It is going to be a blind triple command center opener. We have a second barracks on the back of this, so this is again going to be a 3-Rex. It should be a 3-Rex. Wait, he just canceled this. Wait, he was going to build it right over here and then he didn't. What has he seen that allowed him to, like, skip out on that? There's no info. Okay, now he adds it in. Not too long ago, actually. You know what? I think that may have been a match against SHIN too, because that seems to be Maru's main opponent over the last few months. Maru did go for a 4 command center opener before 3.5 minutes. Ridiculously greedy. You lose to practically everything under the sun if your opponent decides to go for any aggression. Now, of course, in that particular game, the opponent didn't go for any sort of aggression, and Maru seems to always make the impossible work. In this instance, I do think it would be a little bit risky because, well, it's going to be a quick lair yet again here for the Zerg. I think this is pretty much always for SHIN going to be Mutas. SHIN freaking loves Mutalisks right now. And I'm here for it. This is a flying start to the series. He's slowly adding on more gases. So the gas count is mostly going up when he fully saturates a mineral line, and then he adds another gas, another Vespine. Same for the mineral income over here. Whenever he has enough for a 3rd base, he will add it into the mix. But the priority here is on workers and then also on tech. Okay, there's the Spire. Already. Nice and quickly. 420 or so on the Spire. Baneling nest on the back of this too. The main goal is to get baneling speed done at a reasonable time. There's really no reason to rush it. There was that game that we saw Shin play against Cure on this map, where the Mutas were countered nicely early on, but he still used them incredibly effectively to contain the opponent on just the first 4 bases. Now, it did take about a half hour to bleed the opponent out, but ultimately, I mean, Shin just had so much stuff, and it was difficult for Terran to move out onto the map and to try and expand. I think that's probably what Shin is aiming to do here yet again. Go for a big influx of Mutas initially, but then swap out of it and maybe transition to Ultralisks a little bit later on, all the while trying to keep the Terran's economy small. He's been saving up a bit of gas. We have about 6 Mutas, maybe 7 Mutas inbound. I would say 6 to 7. Can I still say that without people giggling? I know there's going to be viewers that will be watching with kids in the room. Yeah, I guess I just did say the magical numbers. Anyways, look, this happens, okay, in a game of StarCraft. I feel like in basically 50% of my casts over the last year, I have mentioned the numbers 6 and 7 in consecutive order. Yeah. It never was a problem until recently. Yeah, I apologize. Mutas are joining in. Now, the Marines, though, I was gonna say, they really cannot be countered by pure Zerglings alone. These are 1-1 Marines. Wait a second. We have Banelings as a... Oh, no. We have Banelings as a potential counter, but Shin, for the time being, is just trying to attack these Marines without that upgrade, without those units. I mean, eventually, these Marines will pretty much stim themselves to death. But I think this is already a pretty decent start for the Terran. 4 Mutas killed, and obviously a lot of time given, right? And that's the big thing. If the Mutas suddenly appear in your mineral line, it's an absolute disaster. But at the bare minimum, the missile turret guys now are here. Still, a lot of Marines died. Now we add on Banes. Centrifugal Hooks is going to finish. You know what? I don't really mind it too much. There is a chance that Maru assumes... No, he saw the Baneling nest. Okay. Thought for a second maybe there's a chance that Maru assumes that there are no Banelings available. Well, he is going to be in for a nasty surprise as suddenly the swarm has arrived on the other side of the map. And this is sketchy. He's actually keeping the Banelings preoccupied for the time being. Now they decide to reveal themselves. The rest of the Terran army is going back around. We're going to blow up part of the wall. And I maybe think, go after some of the units. The splitties here are good enough, though, to at least keep the majority of the Marines alive. But yet again, Maru is in trouble. Second factory was already started. He wants to make the transition to drilling claws and mass widow mines and all the rest of it. But that is 16 SCVs down the drain. In the meantime, on the back of this, the droning has commenced again. 4th hatchery is going to finish up in just a moment. All of this was executed, though, here by Shin on a pretty small economy. So, in a way, yes, it was good damage, but in another way, he needed to deal some sort of damage just to be, well, maybe slightly ahead at this point in time, but just to be even. The really scary part here for the Zerg is these upgrades. 2-2 is going to be done within the next half minute. And it is going to make these units so much more powerful. Let's see. 4 upgrades ahead on the opponent. Obviously, Banelings don't really care that much about upgrades. But I think with good splits... it's not ideal, but with good splits... I think it's good enough. He is going to be able to continue pushing. Now 2-2 is done. Fighting on creep is always sketchy. But Shin is once more, going to taste the wrath of the man with the gun. And this is going to be painful. This is going to be so painful here for the Zerg player. Widowmine tries to latch on, does not quite get all the value. Okay. Bunch of Zerglings. Oh, I love the unburrow there. Bunch of Zerglings trying their absolute best to detonate those mines. 8 drones going down already, though, is awesome. 4th command center in the meantime, by the way, coming up. 3-3 fired up as well for the Terran. Ooh, manual retargeting there. You can see that? With the Widow Mine, he retargeted onto the clump of banelings. And Shin decides to rip off the band-aid because he knows exactly what's going to be happening next. Next up, we find ourselves on the map Mothership. Now, I was busy fast-forwarding to minute 2. Then I realized, wait a second, Shin is already making a gas. He's already added on a spawning pool. We are doing something a little bit more aggressive here. Now, of course, this is a map with 3 spawn locations, meaning that Maru is not going to get a free scout. Usually, actually, what I've noticed on this map, and maybe that's the reason why Shin is going for it, usually Maru seems to skip out on any sort of SCV scouting, and he goes immediately into the Reaper and use that for vision instead. Now, if that indeed turns out to be the case, yeah, Maru might be in some trouble. Lings are already coming. No Zergling speed yet. Are we going to pull out? Okay. He did pull out a little bit. Are we going to start up metabolic boost? Yep, we will. So it's going to be 1 drone left in gas. And now mass Ling production, I suppose. It's not really that many Zerglings here in the end, though. He could go a lot more all-in with this. For example, he could go into banelings, get the queen going a little bit quicker, transition really rapidly into like a Bane bust, right? There's a lot of different variations of aggression here. Now, we do have the Terran going across. Luckily here for Maru, he's headed in the right direction, but the Zerglings are already showing up on the other side of the map, and this command center is unprotected. We already have a 3rd CC on the back of this too, so yet again, Maru opening up with a super greedy style, and doing so without really any info. Now he's going to pick up on the fact, though, that something is amiss. Already, Zerglings are going to town on the other side of the map. SCV on the low ground was indeed denied. No vision of the 3rd command center, but we probably have to pull a couple of SCVs here to keep that supply depot occupied and to keep it alive. There we go. Maru pulling them at the last possible moment. Reaper is going to come back home. Baneling bust on the back of this. Baneling bust on the back of this is actually kind of insane. I think it's probably a reaction to seeing that indeed the command center is added into the mix. Link speed is going to be done. He wants to hide that from the opponent. And at this point, I don't think that Maru knows. I mean, he saw the timing of the gas, I suppose, so it's a reasonable assumption to make that this is indeed the follow-up. But it can be a lot more. We already have a bunch of those links waiting off to the side. More and more reinforcing links in little pockets, so not all of them can be scouted in one go. I think these are going to turn into banelings with the baneling nest finishing up. There we go. It takes 5 banelings to blow up a supply depot, and Maru is in a world of trouble. Does he see it? If he would see it, that'd be big. That would be massive. He does not. He does not see that the banelings are morphing right outside of his natural. Now, with really good crisis management... Oh, no, the Reaper's not even in the main. I thought maybe with a grenade on the ramp, we could still make this work. He decides to blow up both of the depots by running the Banes into the barracks instead. And this is going to be massively painful for the Terran. At this point, the question does not become, will he take damage, but how much damage will he take? 10 SCVs have already died, but the floodgates are still wide open. More and more Lings are streaming across the map. GG gets called, and Shin gets a very quick win in game number 3. Okay, and that takes us to the map Winter Madness. Match point here for Shin. Now, I don't really know exactly how many match points he has had against Maru over the last few years. 2019 is a few years ago, right? Right? That's like a couple of years ago, right? Truly. Anyways, this may very well be the moment that Shin has been waiting for give or take 2 years, 3 years, however long it's been since 2019. Is Maru gonna go... Oh, it's... I thought for a second he wanted to go command center first. It's actually kind of a delayed barracks now. He built that at like a 210 mineral count. Maru may be feeling slightly out of it, or maybe, God forbid, making a mistake? I'm just kidding. It's gotta be on purpose. Pool first, yet again here for Shin. Pool first, but no gas. So this is gonna be pool into a hatchery. Now, if this would be any form of proxy barracks for Maru, Maru is super duper dead. I don't know if that's what SHIN is specifically trying to counter, and whether or not SHIN is even really putting his opponent on a build order like that. But obviously, Pool First is phenomenal against this type of shenanigans. Now, if Maru again skips out the SCV Scout, then a Pool First build can still be really nice. No, he's not going to skip it this time around. So what's important here is that those Lings will probably hide off to the side, maybe right over here or so, and that the Reaper will go straight across the map. Now, if the Reaper goes straight across the map, the Lings can commit and kill the SCV that's building the command center on the low ground. And it slows down the Terran tremendously. What's going to happen now, though, is that Maru will see that indeed the opponent, and there's the Overlord, and we'll probably get the... Wait, do we have any Zerglings at all? He's actually not even made any. Curious. Anyways, Maru is going to see right now that indeed we do have a hatchery at a delayed time. So he probably needs to be careful with this Reaper. He decides to still send it straight across. Honestly, kind of risky. Maybe he hasn't seen any Lings and he doesn't really feel too worried about it, but... This feels kind of nuts to me, to see the opponent's natural expansion timing and then to still send the Reaper across. In a weird way, maybe it's a reverse Uno, right? Even though this is the counter to a Pool First, well, SCV sniping build, right? It's not really that significant of a build for Zerg. It's not really that big of a commitment. But apparently Maru decided to play the reverse Uno card immediately. Maybe he just didn't care. It's going to be a triple command center opener yet again, but this is not a third command center before the factory, which is what we've been seeing in the last 2 games. Worked out nicely, of course, in the second game. Not so nicely in the previous one. It's a bit of a safer approach, all things considered. Yet again, SHIN goes for a lair. Okay. Okay. You know, if you're a Zerg player and you're struggling in Terran versus Zerg in this particular matchup, definitely have a look at some of the SHIN strategies that he's been going for. I don't believe that they're entirely optimal. They're certainly different than what we see from especially the European Zerg player. And also, I guess, from Solar. But Solar, yeah, all things considered, plays a pretty European style. Anyhow, he plays on a European server these days too, so maybe that explains it. Regardless, this is much more aggressive here for the Zerg player. And at the very least, it means that you're not as much of a punching bag. Rather than always defending in the early game, SHIN is going to be able to dictate the pacing here in just a moment. Yet again, when very likely the Mutas are going to be flapping their little wings. I think that's the plan anyways. Is that what we're going to do? No, it's a nydus network. Okay. It's a nydus all-in for all the marbles. Oh, that's risky. Where do you even put it? I guess right over here. There's already a cheeky Overlord waiting in the corner of the Terran's main base. And at this point, Maru has no clue that this is what SHIN is going for. Okay. Is he going to be able to break the curse? Will he finally be able to get his revenge against Maru? He has a very real opportunity right now. There is no vision in the main base. Maru is not expecting this whatsoever. Put it down. There it is. The worm is coming in. Is Maru going to see it? He's just repositioning the structures. He does not see it. Maru may get a glimpse of it now, though, with the third command center repositioning itself, but it's already a little too late to try and counter this. At the very least, he will notice that the queens are popping out. There's a lot of Lings as well out front. Looks like the Hellions will take care of them. Not quite the ideal start to this fight here for SHIN, but getting the nydus worm up itself is already absolutely massive. Maru, though, is known for phenomenal defensive play, so never quite count his man out. Problem for him, though, is that, yeah, for example, the factory here is very exposed. The Zergling's not really doing all too much yet. The, Metavex pop out right at the perfect time. Maru just shut this down. Wow. Maru didn't just shut this down, he murdered it. Did he lose anything? Okay, he lost a tech lab and a couple SCVs. What in the world? How did Maru just do that so perfectly? That's crazy. I'm actually kind of blown away that he only lost 3 SCVs in total in this match. That's nuts. Like, this is going to deal as much damage as that push just did. SHIN probably regretting his choice to go for the Zergling variant now. He had a perfect opportunity to go for the much more common Roach nydus play. Oh, not even the siege tank, guys. Maru. Maru doing Maru things here. That's crazy. Yeah, if he would have gone for the Roach equivalent of the nydus all-in, I think Maru would have been super duper dead. Maru basically had nothing to attack Roaches with. Now, though, Maru is going to be able to cruise and do whatever he likes. Extra barracks, indeed, coming up. We have 3 of them on the production tab. Another gas geyser will finally be added into the mix. Yeah, Maru's now ahead in every aspect of the game. Upgrades, economy, army. Yeah, and I guess that's really all you need. Okay, it helps, I guess, if you have a Terran player not picking up all of their units. But I kind of feel a little bit there for Shin. That right there may have also been a misexecution, because it's a bit of a mental block for him, right? So we saw a bunch of Zerglings attacking this refinery. Why were they attacking the refinery? There wasn't really anything going on there. We also saw the Lings out front. There was a very large group of them initially, but I think the Hellions took care of them before the fight even really started. It's a bit of mismanagement, and it's really not something that is supposed to, quote-unquote, supposed to happen against somebody of Maru's caliber. Shin, just with a moment's hesitation, immediately pays the price. And this is where Maru, again, is very intimidating. Fourth command center, already done. Second factory, already done. Actually, it's not done yet, the fourth command center, but it's nearly finished. There's barracks 6, 7, and 8. See, I said it again! Ah! No, 6, 7, and 8. That's totally normal. Barracks 6 through 8. Should I say it like that instead? Just so I don't trigger any parents watching this, any teachers watching this, and... I don't know. I'm not sure. At least there's baneling speed. Ooh. Well, you know what? Maru has been reasonably sloppy. Taking a lot more banelings to the face than you ordinarily see, and this little baneling roll by. Okay. It could be the beginning of something. Now, even with those losses, though, Maru is still like 40 supply up. He still has a 4th base that's quicker than the Zerg. He's still 2 upgrades ahead. At this point, Maru effectively needs to make a dozen little mistakes. Or like maybe 3 big ones. For this game to go Shin's way yet again. The modern version of Zerg really isn't meant to be played from behind. Comeback mechanics in general for Zerg have been, well, let's call it ironed out over the years. There's really not much you can do. At this point, Shin's main way to get back into this is the Terran making some very big misplays. There used to be a lot of methods to try and get back into a match. But I think with the success of Serral over the last bunch of years, yeah, it's been a little bit less common, let's say, to see those comeback mechanics actually hit the battlefield properly. And while the counter to the Widowmine drop here is pretty good, the amount of units that Maru has available is just kind of nuts. He's probably going to go for an all-out assault here in a moment with 2-2 finishing up. At least I think that's probably what you should do here as the Terran. Widowmine drop, by the way, moves back in, drop in the main base too. We have one little baneling. We had one little baneling. Excellent target firing right there by the Terran. And he's going to be able to snipe the opponent's lair, 2-2 or not. If he targets it down, I think it's dead. Yep. GG. And that means it all comes down to this. Shin had a very real opportunity to have the comeback happen. To finally, well, break the losing streak. But now suddenly, the score is evened up. And we find ourselves on the magnetic north. What do you do right now if you're the Terran, though? Does Maru even have to do anything? Does he have to do anything fancy? Or is Shin just gonna spin his wheels and, well, run himself into the ground? Surely he's not going to be able to win another time, right? I mean, SHIN has been playing some really good StarCraft lately. Losing 3-2 is very different, though, than losing like 3-0 and getting absolutely smacked around. But at this point, I would kind of like to see SHIN, you know, actually, for once, bring it back. Don't choke, SHIN. Don't choke. Are you allowed to be biased as a commentator? I usually try to avoid it. Actually, you know what? I've watched like a bunch of Formula 1. Dude. Sometimes I watch Formula 1 with the Dutch commentary on. Let's just say it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite, but those guys, they are the absolute biggest fanboys of Max Verstappen. And they are not ashamed about it at all, man. They are just cheering for him and always leaning his way, no matter what happens. And it does feel a little bit wrong. Yeah, I guess it makes sense if it's like, I don't know, the national football team going up against another country's football team, right? Like, then that I guess it's a little bit different. I guess at that point it makes sense for the commentators to be, at least in the Netherlands, to be biased towards the Dutch team. But I think at this point, right, we've been cheering for the underdog, who really isn't an underdog against anybody, because SHIN is a world-class Zerg. But at this point, I think it'd be nice for SHIN to finally be able to squeeze out a win. Let's see. The Reaper dancing will begin. It's always a nice moment to get a bit of a skill check and see how eager the players are. Or maybe how sloppy the players are. For now, though, neither player really making misplays. Yeah, I usually listen to the Formula 1 commentary in English, but the one from, like, F1 TV Pro. With Alex Jakes and a bunch of the other guys, and I will say, they are really good. It's actually kind of fun. Like, I used to never listen to any sorts of, well, sports commentary, because I didn't really care for any sports, but then a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago at this point, I got into Formula 1. And it's kind of interesting as a commentator for esports events, right? To listen to a more traditional sport as well. Although I guess Formula 1 is also a bit of a weird one. I heard that some of the English commentating, though, is extremely biased towards any of the British drivers. I haven't really noticed much of a bias for the ones that I've been listening to. But they are very good, and it is fun to have a look at. Maybe there's other sports out there, too, that I would enjoy. I'm not sure. Anyhow, Lair coming up here yet again for SHIN, who opens up with a delayed third hatchery. And I'm assuming we are going to go into a good old, well, Spire. Yeah, now we're getting the gases going. I thought it was going to be a Spire, admittedly, in the previous game. No Roach Warren or anything along those lines this time around. Okay. Got ourselves a starport on the back of this, too. Yeah, for some reason, the Dutch Formula 1 commentators, they're always extremely biased towards Max. And I feel like they're spending about 90% of the broadcast talking about tires. Maybe I'm mistaken, man, but I feel like every time I tune in and it accidentally auto-switches to Dutch because it detects my location, they're just talking about tires the entire time. And one of them likes to talk like this. He likes to talk like he's doing a radio broadcast, and he does this thing with his voice. And it absolutely drives me nuts. Okay, sorry. Where was I? Maybe I should cast a StarCraft game like this. Hit like and subscribe, everybody. It feels so fake. Kinda hate it. Alright, it's actually not nydus this time. Oh, remember that game that SHIN played against Cure? Where he went for this really weird, super quick lair into double upgrades, and he just sort of played 2-2 Hydras with Ling Bane on the back of it, but he never really attacked? He did like a gigantic Brute Lord switch in the late game. It was a weird match. I'm curious to see how Maru is going to try and deal with this sort of thing. Honestly, this attack already seems scary to me. Good old Hellbat push. Now, Hellbats, of course, deal a lot of damage, especially to light units. Hydras have a lot more range, though, so it'll be difficult to actually close the distance. Zerglings in the front, Queens as well in the back to try and deal with some of those units. Yeah, and this has me a little bit worried here for Shin. I think it's going to be a cleanup. But how much damage has been done? We're transfusing drones. That's when you think, that's when you know that things are a little bit messy. 8 workers die. A lot of Terran units did also die, though. Cheeky little Widowmine drop on the back of this. I don't think I like this build order very much from Shin. Now, I haven't played it myself, and I feel like in order to, like, properly have an opinion on it, I need to, like, play this type of strat a bunch myself. But it just seems like it leads nowhere. You get the very quick Hydras out, you get the very quick upgrades, and then you do nothing with it. Ooh. Alright. Yeah. Ooh. Maru's such a jerk. Oh, I love it. I love it. Well done by Maru. Look at that absolute nosedive in the income advantage. That is all those drones on idle. I don't think this is the build, though, that you need to be playing if you want to win against Maru. Basically, this is the very safe punching bag build. Right? Like, you basically are still a punching bag, and in theory, you can't really take a lot of damage from anything, but it's just, it doesn't go anywhere. He didn't follow this up with Lurkers, by the way, against Cure at the very least, which is what I thought was going to be the follow-up. I think Maru will be very happy to see that he's playing against this. It's very likely too, by the way. So the series that Shin played against Cure is from the same tournament. It's extremely likely that Maru has seen those games. And while Cure didn't really have a very good understanding of what to do, Maru was likely watching those games and already came up with a solution. It's an 8 Rex follow-up with a 4th command center on the back of this. Yeah, so what is this build, Shin? What are we doing? So we get Hydraling Bane with, like, Bane speed, but no Hive, no Infestation Pit, a delayed 4th base, a delayed 3rd base. How is this ever good for Zerg? I don't get it. Like, what is the purpose of it? You're effectively playing a very normal mid-game, but off of a worse economy than it needs to be. Now, Cure cleverly, like, looked at it and he thought, okay, this is some weird all-in, and it really did look like one. But Maru is not treating this like an all-in from the Zerg at all. Maru is just playing a very conventional approach to, well, what you normally would do against Zerg, and he's just pulling further and further ahead. Look at him dancing against those banelings. Oh, beautiful. And this isn't even his final form. This is going to be Terran on 4 bases before Zerg will be able to do so. He's got the upgrade advantage. Well, he's going to have the upgrade advantage anyways. He's going to be able to transition into Ghosts as well if that is necessary at all, which I don't think it really is. He has skipped, by the way, and I find this quite interesting. He has skipped out the 2nd factory as well as add-ons on those extra wrecks. So rather than building these inside of the main base, he built them in a far forward position so he can do this parade push straight through the middle. So I think Maru is not going to relent. I think he's just going to double down on the 2-2 aggression, and yeah, I think he's just going to keep going. Yeah, Maru is a beast. Look at the supply count. Ay, ay, ay. And I think that means, with this game beginning to wrap up, that it is indeed another win for Maru. Shin got this close to finally stopping the losing streak. But that now means, I think, what were the numbers again that I mentioned? I think that now means that Maru, out of the 34 times they have played against each other, historically, since 2013, 34, 33 times? Anyways, he won all but one. There was like one series back in 2019 that Shin won against Maru, back when he still went under the idea of Ragnarok. But this is... I feel bad for Shin. Anyways, I think this build, though, that he played here in this particular match is just kind of terrible. Yeah. Truthfully, I don't think it's very good. Maru very likely saw when SHIN executed this build against Cure, and he came up with a counter, and he executed on it pretty much brilliantly here, right? Like, I'm sure there's still some refinement that Terran can do as well if they were to encounter this build a second time around, but I just don't quite understand what the purpose of it is. Like, if it's supposed to be a save Hydra Ling opener, you're not really supposed to be taking damage from relatively basic attacks with, like, Hellbats and Marines, right? You're not really supposed to just die to a regular siege tank push. You get a delayed third base, you get a delayed fourth base, you don't have a timing attack lined up, you don't go quick hive. You're not really going quick upgrades. Like, usually build orders in StarCraft 2 are either economy-focused, army-focused, or upgrade-focused. And this build has none of those.